myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say.
Good morning, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It is a pre-recorded, Geordies here, Geordies there, and welcome to George, Kevin, Stu, Steve, Owlead and Mitch. As always, we've got an hour of NUFC chat, and we got a couple of things which we're going to talk about tonight. First off, ASM, we've spoken about it many times on the show, talked about it potentially leaving. Interesting links we have this week with a potential move to Saudi Arabia. We know that the likes of Everton, Crystal Palace, Marseille, and of course AC Milan have been keeping an eye on the situation with ASM, and we've seen more cryptic messages this week from the Mercurial winger. But interest has emerged from PIF-controlled Saudi clubs Al Nassr, Al Hilal, Al Ittihad, and Al Hi. So Al Walid, I'm going to come to you first, so you can laugh at my pronunciation of those places, and ask you what your opinion is on ASM potentially coming to a Saudi club. Do you think this could happen?
Well, first let me correct. It's Al Hilal, which my team, Al Nassr, which the rivals of Al Hilal, and Al Ittihad, Al Ahli from Jeddah. They are rivals as well. Well, maximum, I still didn't find a solid source. So far, it's just rumors. I don't know. Maybe your lads hear something solid, but for me, nothing solid on this, because we link to many players as Newcastle.
Do you think the Saudi people would be excited to see him out there, Al Walid?
I think yes. I think yes, and he will be a good deal for Saudi League. But if we see Maximin a dream about, remember the Ballon d'Or and France team and Champions League, this is not fit with playing in Saudi Arabia. So I think this is just a rumor. I believe he will stay in Newcastle, and he will do better next season, and either he win his spot in squad, or maybe he transfer to another club next season. Yeah, that's just opinion.
Yeah, what kind of money would you think you would go for, Al Walid?
Steve, of course he will be. If he will transfer, he will be in the same value, market value, maybe a little bit extra. He can't go for crazy money, or else they will investigate. They investigate Chelsea players with the arrival of Newcastle. So how about if we get Newcastle players? So I don't think this is going to be easy.
Okay, good stuff. Thanks, Al Walid. And George, your views on ASM now being linked with clubs, PIF-owned clubs in Saudi?
I look at the sources of where this is coming from, and I think I begin to believe what Stu's saying. It's somebody's been watching the professionals and then made 2 and 2 and come up with 5. I'm not sure why they would necessarily, hit on ASM at the moment. He hasn't got the profile that some of the other players that have gone out have. The other thing that intrigues me intensely is if would it be this fuss if he was going to America or anywhere else for that matter? But because it's going to Saudi, they're talking about Saudi Arabia. Suddenly, it's all important, and that intrigues me as well. So, my good feeling is that we've got this far in the window, and no other than interest from Italy, there's no other great interest. Although hints today or yesterday about Everton, was it yesterday? Saying that they had expressed an interest. Other than that, nothing concrete, and I think it's as Al Walid says, it's more likely he'll stay here and start the season with us, I think.
More cryptic messages, George, as well on his Instagram. You know, I mean, I don't watch, I
Yes,
don't
yeah,
follow
absolutely.
many of the
Yeah.
players. I've got to be honest, but more
No.
cryptic messages. It doesn't really help, does it?
Yeah.
I'm saying it doesn't help, George.
Well, it doesn't. More about him than it does about anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, cryptic messages indeed. You know, I always don't follow Instagram, but these messages find their way through, and you hear what he's saying, and it isn't helpful. And to be honest, whoever advises him very badly, because it's the last thing he should be doing. It's the last thing he should be doing.
I'm laughing because when Albalid went out, it's cocked everything up. Everyone's all over the place now, so we'll just have to go with it. You know what I'm like? I like to be very methodical now. Everyone's all over the place. It's like messing around with celebrity squares. It definitely is. Stu, ASM, I mean, you know, we all know Trulls in the chat always chats, you know, positively about ASM. We all have our own opinions. Some people think he's going to go. Some people think he's going to stay. It's, you know, it's just another set of clubs, isn't it? Really, that he's been linked with. And you know, I'm often of the belief there's no smoke without fire. And I think, am I right in thinking that you're one who thinks he will go this summer?
Absolutely, I think he will for a number of reasons. But similar to the Madison thing, remember there's three key components to any transfer, and that's a willing buyer, a willing seller, and the player. So if you break it down, if we get the right fee, if the club get the right fee, I suspect they would sell him. You just need to find someone who's willing to pay what the club will value him at, and they can point fingers and say, look at this person, look at that person who's went for that fee. And I think the reason for Alan St-Maximin is because he's an exceptional talent. It's just not shown enough, and that's not good enough for a team that needs to be consistently challenged at the top end of the league. You know, whether it's a Maverick or Enigma or Mercurial, as you referred to him earlier, what you need is consistency with that, and that separates the wheat from the chaff, as in the top class players and the players who can occasionally put it on, and he falls in the latter category, unfortunately. And whether that's just down to his own opinion of himself or his own attitude, I don't know. But regarding as I know George just alluded to earlier, what me and Mitch were talking about on the professionals last Sunday was, I think it was initially about the Chelsea players going to Saudi Arabia, and it says, well, imagine Fiore when a Newcastle player eventually does. You know, you'll get people thinking, paranoid enough that all of that money was spent just so they could sign ASM for 40 million or Jeff Hendrick for 10 million or Ryan Fraser for 15 million. You know, that's why they spend like crazy amount of money to do so. But just to carry on that theme, the people who could be, Hendrick could go, Fraser could go, we could get a fee, and these could be tempted by a big salary. Jamal Lewis, he knows he's going to get picked for his national team as long as he's playing football. It doesn't matter which league he's playing in, he's going to get picked for his national team. So if he's on, I don't know his salary, but let's say he's on 20 grand a week and he gets offered 80 to 100 grand a week for a 3-year contract, he'd be crazy not to take it. And with Steve Gerrard taking a managerial role in the Saudi League, which isn't PIF backed, by the way, you know, they have to start pointing the fingers elsewhere rather than just Newcastle. But also, we just have to get used to the fingers getting pointed and just pretend they've got gloves on. They won't hurt. We could have a full debate about this for hours and hours and hours, so it won't. But I just think, will ASM realistically be happy being a bit part player at Newcastle, which realistically he will be if he's still in the squad come the start of the season and beyond. And I think his opinion of himself is a lot greater, and his worth to the team is a lot greater than what Eddie Howe's is. So it would make sense for all parties for him to move on. But of course, we're not going to sell him. He is probably one of our most sellable assets, so they're not going to sell him just for the sake of selling him. The fee would have to be there to make it worth our while as well. When I say our, I mean the clubs, not ours on the panel.
Yeah, obviously. Off to Saudi, Mitch. ASM, do you think, or is it just more paper talk?
he could be off anywhere. Who knows? You know, the clues in his Instagram, and this is where I think 100% he knows what he's doing. He uses social media to curry favour with a certain portion of our fans, who then defend him to the hilt. I've even seen people today saying, "Oh, just give him another year. He might do a Joe Linton." I'm sorry, he's had enough time to improve in that kind of way for me. And I think he knows he's going. I think his little message at the end of last season was a goodbye note, but it was to deflect a little bit back onto the club rather than take responsibility for himself. I'm trying to work out where he is at the minute. He could well still just be in the south coast of France, really. There's no real clues in the surroundings. But this whole stay quiet and the dove with an olive branch emoji, which I gather is often used to say you're off to find new land. And so, you know, I think he knows what he's doing. And it's not helpful. It's just not helpful at all. But at the same time, I'm totally in agreement with Stu that if somebody's prepared to pay the right money for him, we will cash in on him. I think he's one of the saleable assets within the squad that I think would be viewed as replaceable. And yes, it will divide fans. I still can't believe here we are so far past the takeover, and there's still so many ways for us to fall out with each other. There's still so many ways for us to turn the guns inward and start picking away at old scabs and start, you know, ramming wedges into little cracks just to have a go. And I know you confused me, first of all, when you said good morning, but of course I keep forgetting this is a pre-record.
I'm not drinking wine in the morning.
Something that we might... I mean, it's something that potentially we could have already touched on Amigos on Friday, so I'll keep my powder dry on that one. Because I think if you say the wrong thing on Friday night, you might get a very long rant off me. Or the wrong thing, I don't know. But it's frustrating to see him continuing to do it when actually, if you want to do something in silence, just shut your mouth. You don't have to post anything. You know, it frustrates us, but like I say, I think I can see him going, and for the right reasons, really. I think we need to go forward. I think we need somebody who was consistently delivering. I would love him to be consistently delivering, but I think I've been saying that for 3 years now, and I don't know how much longer I can say it.
Okay, Steve.
Lads, how we're, man. He was brilliant under Bruce. What he's on about? Come on. How many times we heard that one? You're right, Mitch. His inconsistency is the only consistent thing about him. And you cannot get consistency from the bench or from the treatment table. And that's all he's managed so far. I mean, people are saying, they would have him straight in the team. Who they're going to have him ahead of? I'm going to stick him ahead of Joe Linton. I'm going to stick him ahead of Anthony Gordon. There's two for a start. They're down that side. This is where it becomes a problem for the manager, I suppose, because he's then got to balance whether or not he has an unhappy player who wants first team football but can't give him because he's not part of the squad in that respect. He sees himself very much as a starter for every game, but his injuries don't allow him to do that. And you're right, his consistency's gone in terms of when he does come on, his goals aren't there. His style of play has changed. You know, we went on an awful long time about wanting them to do more, wanting them to be more of a team player. But I think we realised that has an impact on how impactful he can be during a game, because he's all about that dynamic. He's all about doing something different. And he's a wonderful player. Goes to Saudi, whichever club gets him in Saudi, they're going to get half their money back, because going to John Joe Shelby gets fined every day when he turns up for wearing various attires of jewellery and rings and God knows what. Or according to Steve Clements, it's because he takes the kids to school first, and that's why he gets fined, because he comes in late. They're interesting comments, and they're comments that I've heard this season voiced towards him in terms of how he conducts himself within the changing room. Everybody said he's a great lad, but there's always a but. Sorry
to jump in, Steve, but there's yet another example of him finding ways to have his behaviour excused. Yeah. Oh, but he takes the kids to school, you know.
Yeah.
So he's got somebody defending him again there. And you'd have players in that squad thinking, hey, he's 25 minutes late again here. But he's a good lad. He takes the kids to school, you know.
Exactly.
And somebody in the management team saying that, you know. Yeah. And it was always the frustration with someone like him, that he will be given leeway, he will be given sort of extra rope to hang himself with. And again, another thing I've seen people using to defend him is that picture of him skinning Walker while Pep's on his knees on the touchline. That's fantastic, but tell us, how many times did you do that this season? 3 times?
Maybe once. Maybe 3 times in that game, but one game.
Exactly. So, you know, and again, you got somebody within the management team excusing behaviour that would be pissing other people in the squad off.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if we've always said it depends which ASM's going to turn up, and I think the trust goes from a manager. I'd be interested to hear what Kev says, because obviously on the coaching side of it, you know, you see some really dynamic footballers who, you know, can do everything on the training pitch, but when it comes to, you know, getting that message out in a game, they don't produce it for you, and that must be frustrating as a coach, Kev.
Steve, I've just said before Kev speaks, if you look at what he does, he's not even a 1 in 5, 1 in 6, 1 in 7, 1 in 8, really good performance over a season. Shelby was performing better than that statistics wise, you know, statistics wise. He may have been a 1 in 4, 1 in 5 good game, but he got pelters from the fans. So why is the ASM getting defended? What we need is people who are 5 out of 6 good games, and that's what we've got with the rest of the squad. And that's why we're in the position we are in now. We're not relying on someone who, unfortunately, turns out when it seems to be whenever the wind's blowing in his favour.
Yeah, it's difficult, Kev, isn't it, really, for fans, because we all have favourites. We all have people who we don't want to see, you know, in the team. And ASM definitely splits opinion, as Mitch says.
He does, and well, how to follow all of that? Leave it up to the coach. I mean, no, but it's a detriment to his own self. Like everybody's saying, like Mitch, everybody, whatever. Just he's pretty much hung himself too many times. In the dressing room, on the field of play itself. For me, he's not even 1 in 10. He's not even that. He's just, I mean, I don't know. He's the detriment to himself, like I said. And basically, he needs to go to a counter-attacking team when he played under Bruce, in my opinion, because that was when he was at his most effective. He's not the track back, work hard. He's look, I don't care if he's got to take his kids to school or whatever. It doesn't matter. You're part of this regime and this ethos now. This is get up 10, 20 minutes earlier. Get up, you know what I mean? Do what you have to do to get you force your way into the first team. And he hasn't done that. He's expecting, because it's Alan Saint-Maximin and I can do what I want and I can go and do this, I can go do that. I know of certain things, even from 2 seasons ago, when he was parking in the wrong parking space. And that pissed players off. And it pissed the staff off, it pissed the building people off, or whoever it was, you know, and like whatever it was, that's what he did, because it's I can do what I want, and I'm going to get away with it. Well, in my world, if you do that for too long, you're going to be sitting beside me, son, and keep him in the bench warm, and that's going to piss him off even further, and that's just going to drive him out the club essentially. And I think that's what the club have been very clever at doing. I think if he goes this summer, but if not, I think it'll be bit of a money maker in January. You know, somewhere within 25 to 30 million pound, I think that would be a good bit of value, a good bit of business, a good bit of sponsorship. You know, sponsorship money, legal sponsorship money. We should say that. You know? But yeah. So if he goes, he goes. I'll not be too disappointed. I think there's better out there, to be perfectly honest. And again, the product what he brings is minimal to none.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Kev, I'll let you go first on this one. Newcastle have obviously enlisted the help of Stadia by GL Events and KH Stadium Seating Solutions. They manufactured and they installed the rail seats at Anfield, Ellen Road and Molineux. It was also those experts who helped fit the 600 rail seats you might have spotted in the away end at St James's Park last season. Anyway, they're back now. The seats were removed from Strawberry Corner, and the new independent safe stand and barriers have been fitted alongside the newly attached seats in the section of the Gallagher end. Now, Mitch mentioned earlier about our fans always finding something to complain about. People are complaining about this now. You know, you cannot make it up. People are saying that it's not as good as the Liverpool stuff. It's not as good as the Liverpool seats. I'm not being funny, but nobody's actually physically seen them apart from the people who put them in. We don't know, you know, people are probably twisting. Dave from Heaven's probably twisting about this, and he's not even going to be. He's not actually going to be in there. He's not actually going to be in there. He's going to be sitting in the bloody barracks or something. But it's just crazy, isn't it? I mean, we wanted safe standing. We've got safe standing. For God's sake, just embrace this. Embrace it. Be happy.
And exactly, and it's not even bloody finished yet. It's not done. You know what I mean? It's a great dark grey rail and the dark grey seat. Yes, it doesn't look fantastic. I'm not gonna cry over the spilt milk about it, you know, because they might put a design in there. Who knows what they're doing? I know that from what I've been told, thankfully she will be here when this goes out, but she's on a flight at the minute who I've been told that they're delayed. There's been a lot of delays, there's been a lot of problems. So and I know level 7 is probably going to be full safe standing or to that effect in some way, shape or form. But again, like the kind of phrase of our Mitch, we turn the gun on ourselves 99.9% of the time just for the crack. Why not? You know, just to argue, just, you know, I mean, thankfully I don't sit there. Well, with my season ticket, I sit behind I'm not far from the 1892 bar, so I'm not really worried about it. But if they want to have an argument, they can go and have an argument. You know, it is what it is. But again, they're not done. They're probably not done yet. They probably need a bit of paint on it, a bit of sprucing up to look like Liverpool, to look like this, to look like that. So that's all I've got to say on that, because I'm just probably getting riled up about it. And
no bother. Steve, is it? Am I right in thinking that it's similar to what we saw when we originally were shown what safe standing was all about in the 9 bar years ago?
Yeah, it is similar but different in so much as there's a few little design tweaks I think being made of it. But yes, the whole idea was that the seat is there for the European games where standing is not allowed. So you get allocated a seat for that, but during the Premier League games and the FA Cup, the seat will be retracted and be locked in place. And yes, there's a barrier in front of you, and the whole idea of the barrier is that it's safe to stand and you can't go over the top. We'll have people complain saying the barrier's too high, the barrier's too low, the barrier's too wide, the barrier's not wide enough, it hasn't got somewhere to put a cup holder on. God knows what's going to come, you know, over the next few weeks. I dread to think what Twitter's going to be like after the first game of the season, when it's going to, you know, people who have been in the safe stand area are going to go, well, there wasn't much atmosphere, nobody was singing, and you know what, that concrete floor, you can't stamp your feet as loud as we thought we could, you know, or the segs in the boots are like damaging the concrete, you know. This is like what it's going to be like. We're just, but the only intrinsic difference, I think, Steve, real difference was that the system that we saw was going to allow 3 to 1. So you're going to have 3 people for every seat that was allocated, but then the capacity would reduce during a European game. So you would be able to get 3 times as many. So if there's 600 seat allocated there in that corner, then it would have held 1,800, because you've been back to being close together like it was on the terraces. But the fact is that you can't go forward and you can't go back. So you've got a barrier in front of you and you've got a barrier behind you. That was the whole gist of what John Darch and the lads in Germany were putting together. So that's the difference that we'll see. It's literally 1-to-1, so it makes no advantage in terms of capacity, which, let's face it, would have been perfect for Newcastle. You know, you imagine, I think a lot of people would have gone, you know what, if you can fill the Gallagher up with 3 times as many people, what an atmosphere that would have created. Then it would have looked like Dortmund. And then obviously on the European games, you could decide that certain parts of that were, that area was then reduced. But because that's the rule that UEFA would impose. But for league games, it would have been absolutely fantastic and helped with the demand. But unfortunately, that's not the system that's been brought in. I think that's more to do with the Premier League and the FA and the license that was given for safe standing. So it's out of the hands of the football club. But it would have been good to think that we could have moved down that line. Decision was made after the trials, I presume. The trials that they had at Celtic, for example, that was where it was tested first. And maybe it was felt that, enough was enough people in. I know Stu would be delighted that they weren't letting more in.
Nothing.
George, your thoughts on the... Oh, he's away again. Stu, what's your thoughts on the old the safe standing? I mean, it is just more people just complaining about things really than ever before.
Well, it isn't. There's a right to complain about this, Steve, because as you know, I like to be positive. I like to be optimistic. I like to look on the bright side of life and things like that. But this safe standing 1-for-1, I genuinely don't see the point in it. To me, it's just a waste of money. It's paying lip service. It's box ticking. It's just appeasement, and that money could be better spent elsewhere. Now, if it was, as Steve mentioned there, 3-for-1, like 3 people to 1 seat, and it was congested like it was in what we look through our hazy, glazed eyes of like the good old days, you always remember the best parts, like the school summer holidays when you were a kid. It was sunny every day. No, it wasn't, but you remember the good times. But if it was 3-for-1, and I had to stand in that now, I'm just grateful that they don't brew Newcastle exhibition anymore. Because imagine you crammed in like that. But if you're just having the seats replaced 1-for-1, then to me, I think it would actually lose atmosphere because there'll be too much space. And that's got to be detrimental to Newcastle, who play on the 12th man. The crowd genuinely do help the team, and they do encourage the team, and they can intimidate the opposition. So if they made it like for every 3 seats there was 4 fans, or every 2 seats there was 3 fans, then it makes sense, but financial sense as well. It's which is important for the club. There would be extra revenue coming in, but just to say, okay, we've got safe stand because it's been suggested, aren't we nouveau riche, aren't we modern, aren't we listening to everyone? To me, I generally don't see the point in it, and it's not often I'm like that over something that the club's doing. I don't see the benefit.
Mitch, it's become a bit of a farce. The whole safe standing, complaints on social media. We see it all the time. People twist on 21. But
Yes.
I've got to be honest. I agree with Stu. I do think it's a bit of a lip service. I think if we were increasing the capacity, which is what we've been trying to do, then I think it would have been a worthwhile thing to do. But the fact that it's 1-for-1 doesn't really make sense, does it?
Well, Steve and I have discussed this with different people over the years, and I remember, seeing different variations when we were talking to Jay French and bringing potentially the Gagliardi family in. I think he was talking about safe standing, but I think that was 3-2, wasn't it, Steve?
Yeah.
It was a variation on the 3-1, but it at least was an increase in capacity, and seemed to be a little less prone to potential crushes because it was 3-2 rather than 3-1. There's so many different ways it can go, but going 1-to-1 is going to upset people unnecessarily. There's no point in creating that situation, and now people are complaining about it anyway. Maybe who even wanted it in the first place. But that's maybe because it's not the system they wanted. Maybe they were expecting 3-1 and then turned around and got 1-1 and then realised that actually this is a bit shit, really.
Mm-hmm. Just at Parkhead, I know Steve mentioned it earlier, the railings are actually low. And if there is natural surge, you can fall over and it does create more health and safety issues than it's meant to be stopping.
Yeah. And you can't, Stu. Somebody may hate can't.
So they're still the same age. We're all the same size line down, Steve, as apparently I've been told.
It all just adds up again, like you're rightly saying. It's not often you hear Stu saying something like that it is just feel like a box ticking exercise to keep a certain sections of people in football happy.
Yeah.
And that's a frustration.
I think do you remember as well, Stu, and Steve, you'll remember, I'm sure, that one of the guys that we used to see in the 9 bar on Stowell Street when you were running it, said that structurally, from a structural engineering point of view, 3-1 just wouldn't be allowed on the Gallagher, because they said that the way that the terrace had been put together, the way that the development was done under Sir John, when they created the new Gallagher end, if you then had suddenly the load of 3-1 as opposed to the 1-1 you've got at the minute, it potentially wouldn't be allowed, just from a structural point of view. So maybe there were issues like that immediately eliminated the possibility of 3-1. That was just someone who worked in that particular industry, who knew a little bit about structural engineering. It wasn't anything official from the club. It wasn't anything official to do with safe standing, but it was certainly a comment that somebody sat down with us and talked about at that particular time, because he was working in the industry and had been involved with the development of the Gallagher end. So there's an awful lot more, I think, to demands from fans, but sometimes you go for the easy option, and I think 1-1 was the easy option.
Yeah, George, it's we've got you there, George. I'm trying to unmute you. You've muted yourself, George. I know you're having a few internet issues tonight. Can you unmute or not? I'll come to you whilst George sorts his technical side out. Safe standing. It's just, is it a bit of lip service to have the club just done this to try and keep certain fans happy? What's your thoughts?
Well, I didn't give this topic much as just normal reading, and I believe it's something to do with UEFA champions. Just they went to make St. James Park because they were about to qualify to some Europe champion, and I think this is just a condition. Is that it? I'm not really sure.
It's really because a lot of fans have wanted it. Other clubs have got it, I believe, and really, it's nothing to do with Europe. It's more fans have wanted it. They put out a poll: do people want safe standing? Yes, we do. Where do you want it? Well, we want it in the Gallagher Strawberry Corner. That will be the place to put it. So we've got it now. But I think what we all talking about here is that normally, something like that would be done to try and increase the capacity. We're constantly talking about wanting more people to come into the ground. So I guess really, I think the disappointing thing with this is it's great that they've done it. It's great that they've listened to supporters. It's not going to increase the capacity, I believe.
I believe the fans usually here, and even in St. James Park, with any dangerous attack by the players, everybody's standing. So it doesn't really matter. And for me, as long as I have a ticket, I don't mind if I'm seated or standing or hanging. So it doesn't matter really much for me.
Okay, George, we'll try and bring you in whilst you've come back, because just a safe stand. And what's your thoughts on all this, George? He's having a bad night tonight. We'll have to take him out, unfortunately. We're going to go to the ads now. I'll try and fix George's issues when we come back.
A big thanks to all our sponsors: Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website skipsandbins.com. Easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's sauces, which are handmade in Cumbria. Their website is mrvickies.co.uk. If you want to contact the guys, email info@mrvickies.co.uk or telephone 01768 210 102. Big thanks to New Workwear. They are an agile and dedicated workwear provider launched in 2018. For more information, go to their website, newworkwear.com. Big thanks, as always, to Media Arts for the help with the video side of things. If you want to support the channel, hit the subscribe button, become a subscriber today. Hit the thumb up under the video, which likes the video, and click share to share to your other social media. Click join if you want to become a member of the channel for as little as $1.99, or take a one-off payment for the cult membership. You can get in via this QR code if you've got a smartphone, or look for membership pack on the website, nufcmatters.com. What do you get for your one-off £25 payment? You get a scarf, a pen, and a cup, and a membership card, and entry into the monthly draw. Don't forget, if you want a car sticker, all you need to do is subscribe to the show and then email John at NUFC Matters, and he will post you a free car sticker out. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. And we also support the food bank on this channel. NUFCfansfoodbank.co.uk is the virtual matchday bucket where you can make a virtual donation 365 days of the year. The new Alan Shearer raffle is underway. 150 tickets at £1 a ticket. You could win a limited edition signed Alan Shearer ball from the 260 dinner. Enter now at nufcmatters.com. We've got a few events coming up. August the 5th sees Gavin Peacock at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets are £10, and you can get them now from nufcmatters.com. Our Christmas event takes place on the 7th of December at the Tyneside Irish Centre, and that's an evening with Frank Clark. Tickets are £15 and available from nufcmatters.com. Finally, Waddle, Keegan, Beardsley and Friends, the class of 84, is on at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House on Westgate Road in Newcastle on Thursday, January the 23rd. Tickets are now available from the Tyne Theatre and Opera House.co.uk or telephone 0844 2491 000. That's the box office telephone number 0844 2491 000.
Okay, George is back. Are you with us, George? You're still muted, mate.
Yeah.
It's not looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've unmuted you there. But good. Give us your views on the safe stand and stuff that's been going on.
The biggest disappointment for me was the fact that it doesn't increase capacity, and I think that if it was going to be any good, that's what I would want to happen. To have all that upheaval and not get any real advantage out of it is to me is unnecessary, and it's causing all sorts of problems we could do without, and that's what disappoints me about it. The other thing is, for me personally, I couldn't do it because I couldn't stand that long at the moment. So yeah, the disappointment is no more capacity. So why do it? What's the point? You know.
Okay, good stuff. Going to chuck one onto you now, lads. And I know obviously you guys will be able to deal with it, but the arrival of Sandro Tonali this week, the Italy under-21 captain, has been, been great for me. Great to see, the publicity. Great to see him, arriving. He looks great. He's a professional footballer. He just looks like the kind of player that I expected him to look. It sounds weird, but just as the first shots that we saw, and obviously we're pre-recording this and walking through the airport and stuff, I just think, wow, this guy carries himself well, and that's just, do you know what I'm trying to say? He looks the part. He looks every inch the player. I just think he's going to be a new hero for us. So the question is, we know that at some point he's going to get in the team. I want you to name your midfield with Tonali in it. I'm interested to know. So let's go with George. Give us your team. Give us your midfield, George. With Tonali in it. So Tonali's in. I want to
Tonali, Bruno, and Big Joe alongside him. That would be my three.
Okay, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Bruno, Tonali. I think we might go for a four-man midfield. I think there's a place for Joe Willock in among that. And I think there's a place for Longstaff. But more than likely a place for Joe Linton. But certainly the I think with those two, I think you need a runner. I think you need someone with a little bit more pace. And I can see Willock fitting in really, really well with them. And you're right, he does look very much a supreme athlete. He holds himself well. That's because he's about 6'4", isn't it? You know, so and you know what it reminded me? It reminded me of the film that we saw when Bruno arrived.
Yeah,
you know, that was what it was like. This is a lad who is going to come and take the place by storm, I think. So
he knows he's good.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I mean, I was struggling for the words there at the start. I just felt there wasn't an arrogance. There's just an assurance that he's just assured. He looks. You just know when he walks on that pitch that he's going to be coming off a winner, and that's what we've bought. We've bought somebody who's going to win us things, 100%. Kevin, give us your midfield, mate. What midfield are you going to play? I mean, did you give us yours, Steve? By the way,
well, you named them
among those two.
You forgot Anderson.
You forgot Anderson.
No.
Go on then, Kev.
It depends on the shape and it depends on the game. From me, that's how I see it. If it's a 4-3-3, I will go obviously Tonali on the right side of the three, Bruno sit, and we'll just say Joe because I don't know.
You don't know which Joe.
An ASM sitting on the top of the pivot.
with bandages on. No, in a 4-2-3-1, I would obviously sit Bruno and Tonali, and I'll put Joe Willock in front of him. Yeah. And like Steve said, just with a bit of legs, bit of pace, and put Joe Linton on the left side of the three, you know, whatever, of that front three of the two. In front of the two, sorry. So again, just depends on the shape what he plays. But like you said, he just looks a typical Italian, just a class act. You know, the way he dresses, the way he's just suave about himself, confident, bit of the housery about him. You know, he knows that he's arrived, and I think he's ready to go and hit the ground running. To be honest, if he gets in the side, of course, you know, but that's for Eddie to decide.
Yeah, I think we all know what Eddie Howe will do. He'll have to earn his place, but as long as he plays up to the standards he's going to expect, then he'll be in. Mitch, what's your midfield then?
I think it would probably be opposition and game script dependent, but I think the raw three, that if you was to say right ways, pick your best three, I can't see past Bruno, Tonali and Joe Linton. And then other people working around those three or swapping in for one of those three depending on opposition and game script. Unless Eddie's got a total change of formation up his sleeve, which is entirely possible. Because there's absolutely no doubt towards the end of the season, I think we got worked out a little bit. And I think you'll want to progress. So I think let's see what kind of conversations we're having about what to start in midfield in another 2 weeks' time when there's maybe another two players through the door.
Okay. Stu?
The one word I'd use is choices. So, I mean, with Kev being a coach, his superior knowledge. And I like the idea of his formation as well, like a 4-2-3-1 with Bruno and Tonali sitting there. I think that's something that could set up for at least 5, 6, 7, 8 away games this season. But at home, and of course we're talking about the players in the squad currently at the time of recording, I suspect that it would be Bruno with Tonali and Joe Willock and having ASM wide left. Sorry, ASM, where did I get that from? Joe Linton wide left and Gordon wide right with Isaac down the middle, and then you've got the impact subs to come on. And this is what we've talked about phases. Like the first phase was like the Dan Burns coming in and the Brunos. Then we had the Botmans and the Isaacs. And now we've got Tonali, and he's the first one of this new phase. And everyone that we sign now will be of a higher quality than what we've already got. This is what Eddie Howe made quite clear in several of his press conferences. And so that would be my three. I would have Willock on the left so you can interact with Joe Linton. They can swap over and have either Tonali sitting or Bruno sitting, the one doing the right, because they can both do it. And I think to keep things easier, they might keep Bruno on the right initially, even though the song says he's in the middle, because he's got the familiarity of interacting with whoever's on the right wing, whether that be Gordon, whether it be Almiron, whether it be Trippier, you know, on that side. They've got that familiarity, so you're not breaking up too many of the triangles that they play. And have Tonali not as much as in a holding role, but sitting in the middle. Because if you played a 4-3-3 as we did when we were back in school, you didn't have a holding midfielder. You had three midfielders that were box to box. And if one went, two would cover. If two went, one would cover. And we have the athleticism to do that. And that goes back to my very first word, was choices. And it's great that we're getting choices, but with proper quality. So I would go with Bruno, Willock and Tonali.
Okay, Al-Walid, your midfield with Tonali in it.
Bruno, Tonali, and the next signing. But Joe Linton, I think he will be better if we free him and make him the left winger. I think we will benefit from him. Maybe it's going to be the opposite. We put Joe Linton on the middle if we need him, but I prefer him on the left winger, so we'll get extra tall player with his improvement. So if now I can say, as most of you lads, Joe Willock with them.
You know what, Steve, as well, I think it's just picking up something that the lads have said there. Al-Walid mentioned the next signing. I think, having seen how the two Brazilian work, I wouldn't be surprised if the next signing was an Italian as well. And I think that sort of friendship and that sort of relationship that brews off the pitch as well as on the pitch in terms of partnerships and friendships. And I think that's why I think that Newcastle will go for another Italian. And I also think that what we've seen is over the past few months is that, you know what, Eddie Howe's not frightened to change. He's not frightened to take players out. We might find that Tonali doesn't start, like Bruno didn't start for the first few games, if he feels as though he's got to settle, especially after the lads just played in the Euro 21s, and he might feel he needs a bit of a break. So pre-season training might not be as intense for him as it is for the rest of the lads. So what we've got is a very, very much a manager who is, yes, he's got the responsibility of managing the team, but he's strong enough now to be able to make those decisions and stick by them. And I think that all goes well for the club. I think all goes well for the team, and it's going to make it an even more exciting season for us. Roll on August. That's what I'm saying.
Just want to ask. We start with Al-Walid, go around the board again, and just about the commitment from certain players. We've been talking about Tonali, we've been talking about the midfield, but Sean Longstaff and Jacob Murphy have been training with a local non-league team to get ahead of the game fitness wise, Al-Walid. So they've been training with Newcastle Blue Star. I mean, that in itself tells you, all you need to know about those two players, doesn't it? That they are so keen to stay at Newcastle and get involved in what hopefully will be another fantastic season. That they are taking their fitness seriously. They're giving up the holiday to get fit ahead of getting fit.
Exactly, and if the player have less skills, he can make up to it, make it up if he have better stamina. So this is really great from them, and really excited to see them help us in the squad. And this is they are great players, Jacob Murphy and Longstaff. But we are talking about the starting lineup. They will start some games, But maybe Eddie Howe thinking now about the Champions League. I think this is a bit of a pressure. So I would like to see maybe a Spanish player from Spain and also from Argentina. So this will help us in the Champions League.
Yeah, he's chucking a few little grenades in there, Al, the lead, isn't he? Stu, what's your what's your thoughts, mate, on those two going out? Just doing the extra yards. I mean, that's what you want to see. It's what you want to hear, isn't it?
Yeah, the same two players you mentioned, Murphy and Longstaff, both Newcastle supporters, and I think if you take economics out of it, and it's a coin phrase, but I think both of them would do the same job for the club, even if they're on half the salary they're currently on. And these two were part of a small group of people that were going in for extra training under Steve Bruce. Not under Steve Bruce, while Steve Bruce was in charge.
Yeah.
Because of the days off, they was like, no, we need to do this. And you need people like that in the squad who are committed, who can show what it means. And you can put Dan Burn into that as well, who shows what it means, the pride to play for the club that you love. And I think when we're talking about what do you want 100% as those two with Dan Burn, being local lads or supporters of the club, they really are living the dream. And you've got to give them every credit for what they're doing. It's Newcastle Blue Star they're training with, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which is now in Scotswood, I believe, rather than up next to the airport. So good luck with the cars down there as well when they're training. So the difference is, for me, I think Murphy has probably had the best season he's ever going to have. I don't think there's much more of a ceiling for Longstaff. And I say that not disrespectfully, I say that because he's had a fantastic season. I don't think there's much more he could give to the team. But in saying all that, if he's ever in the team, I don't think any of us would be disappointed whether it's on rotation or injury or suspension through one of the starting 11. He's proved himself to be more than a capable replacement. But I would still be very surprised if Longstaff did not start this season playing for Newcastle for the reasons that Mr. Hasty was given there. For Tonali, he's got so much. He's got a new culture, but more importantly, he's got a new language. He's got to learn tactics, what people are saying to each other. And I think someone like Sean Longstaff, long-term, will help Tonali and help Newcastle, because it's very easy for Eddie Howe to sit there and say, see what this guy does for us. This is what we expect you to do, but sprinkle your little gold dust on top of it. See the effort he makes, see the runs he makes, see the covering he does. This is why we bought you. You have to prove you're better than him to get in that team. And that's what they did with Bruno. He was bled in over 5 or 6 games. They did it with Botman at the start of last season as well. So it's great we've got capable replacements long-term, because I know your question was with the 3 midfielders at the start of the season. Eventually. So I think at the start of the season, the start 11 will be very similar to last season's, and let the new guys watch, savour the atmosphere, see what's expected them off the roll. It's okay showing them on a board, on a flip chart or on an iPad or whatever, but actually seeing it in reality. This is what we want you to do. And as we've mentioned, Tonali's got the swagger, he's got the confidence in his own ability. Yeah, I can do that. But in Italian, obviously, until he learns Geordie. I can do that. And then eventually he gets his 20 minutes, then he gets his 30 minutes, then he gets himself in the team. And we as a team, as Newcastle United, will be better for it.
Mitch, it's just good to see, isn't it? It just sends the right message out.
Throughout the dressing room. And it's quite clear from that trip to Riyadh when Sean and Jay were rolled out to speak to the fans, the respect and the influence they silently have over the dressing room. There's no doubt about that. They're a key part of the squad. And they're sending signals out pre-season. Well, we're up for it. You've got to be up for it. I think it's a fantastic message to send to the rest of the squad. And I think you're seeing why Eddie Howe wants to keep certain characters in the dressing room, because they're building potentially a legacy, and he wants to introduce every aspect of what makes a squad great, and to have two real proper grafters like them laying down a marker pre-season, I think, name me another squad that's got that in it at the minute, and I don't think there is. And so, all power to both Jacob and Sean for taking it on themselves to go the extra mile. There's not many professional footballers do that. Sir Bobby Robson's famous quote about how do you make a rich man sweat? I'll tell him to go and train with Newcastle Blue Star pre-season, probably.
George, good to see these guys playing a little part in Newcastle Blue Star.
I think
it's good publicity for the local team as well.
Well, and helping the local team, I was just about to say that. And actually, I've got a soft spot for Newcastle Blue Star because if you recall a couple of seasons ago when they brought a new strip out, I bought a couple for our Neil and one for me, and we advertised them on the platform on a couple of programs, and we wore them. And out of that, I've got a free season ticket for Blue Star anytime I want to go. And when the one match I did get to, they give us a tour of their facilities, and the facilities are fantastic. They're growing very, very quickly, and they're being promoted this year. So the fact that they're into that with a local club, encouraging, great. Doesn't surprise us one bit that they're the two that are doing it though, because that's what they seem to be like. I mean, and a good characters around the club. Jacob Murphy, when he was substituted that time, and he just had a big smile on his face because he knew the manager had no choice. He didn't kick off. He just took it and got involved in it, and his face when he scored that goal as well against Spurs. No, you can't have too many of them around the dressing room. Just to fill in with the superstars, if that's what you want to call them. No, I think it's great and do them no harm, and certainly great to get the publicity for Blue Star as well.
Yeah, Steve.
Local lads going out in close season doing training. We've heard that before, Steve. Oh yeah, Stevie Watson, he did it, didn't he? Lee Clark did it. Whole host for Robbie Elliott. They all did it with Blackie, if you remember. I remember actually Clarkie running along Chilly Road on a Sunday evening, just out to doing a little bit more leg work, and I'm going in the other direction and we're passing each other. And that happened quite regularly because that's what Lee was like. He just couldn't stop himself. He wanted to be fit. But he did it at a period in his career where he thought his chances were under threat. So he wanted to get that extra edge, that little bit of work, behind the scenes, so that when the lads turned up, he was fitter and the manager would notice it. Maybe it's a northeast thing, maybe it's a local thing, or maybe it's just footballers being very, very switched on and seeing. The other thing to remember, of course, is that Jacob and Sean were both injured at the end of last season. We didn't see Jacob for the last few games, so maybe he felt as though he needed to do that extra little bit of work, but in a sensible way, just to tone the muscles and tone the body. And similarly with Sean, with the injury that he had, he was out for a few games, came back towards the back end of the last couple of games. But I mean, this is professional footballers putting in the extra yards, and it's great. I just hope that they are also being supervised by the physios. I'm sure they are. I'm sure they're not just going out on a whim and also going training afterwards with the lads from Blue Star and having a few pints at the Valham or at the Denton Hotel afterwards. I don't think that happens these days.
Selling the domino card.
Yeah, maybe if it was Clarkey or maybe if it was Stevie Watson, maybe the lads would have been entertaining them in the Denton Hotel afterwards, but not now.
Kevin, it's a refreshing story, and it's a feel-good factor story made by the players, not by the club this time.
It is, and just to follow on Mitch said again, it's benchmarks, standards, character within the team. However, just to go a little bit deeper than that, I know, obviously within my world, every player would, after the preseason, would have had an individual action plan sent to them.
Yeah.
And they would have had to follow that to literally a T in terms, yes, have your break, have your relax, you've had a fantastic season, but as I've said, a certain date up until when they're back in full preseason, you have to follow this meticulously across X amount of period of time to get to the level of fitness where you need to be on day one. We're not going to start day one to where we need to get you before our first game. You have to be at this certain level. I've seen pictures of Miggy do it. I've seen, you know, others as well. So it's not, yes, they're the two local lads, but what I've written it down when everybody was talking. For Newcastle Blue Star players to see two first-team pros from Newcastle United show up, to see how what they do and what their work ethic is bodes well for that team, and see how they do it. Yes, injury a little bit, or you know, in their rehabilitation, but it's fabulous to hear. Got a bit of I played a Blue Star back in the day when I was at the airport in terms of with college and stuff like that. So it's steeped in history within the local area. You know, it like I said, it's. If I was playing for Blue Star and I see Sean Longstaff and Jake and Murphy rocking and say, oh shit, I've got to work hard today. You know, they're going to show up and they're going to work hard. So I'm going to try and match them and see where I am as a amateur, semi-pro or whatever they are, to see where my actual fitness level is. And plus, on the other side, I'm going to push you as a Blue Star player to say, okay, I'm going to outdo you. You know, so there's that banter, there's that football community within the city anyway, but it's just nice for anybody to go to a local football club and do a bit of fitness. I'm sure they'd be happy to have them along even further down the road in the next year. Get Tonali along, you know, get him in, you know, just to see what it's like. You know, this is our local grassroots, probably fitter than half of the Premier League team, Blue Star, because they'll have to run their nuts off. But yeah, it's just wonderful to see. And again, it's just standards. It's just the Eddie Howe way. If you're not going to be involved in this process, you know, you've got to, I'm not going to hold your hand and tell you what to do. You've got this plan in place. You've got to go and actually be a bit independent and actually be a pro and do your job. Yes, you have a holiday. Everybody has them. But at the same time, go and be a professional footballer. Go and do outside what your normal realm of work is to get better. I'm not going to tell you every 2 seconds what to do. You're grown out. You're grown. An American phrase. You're grown ass adult. You know, go do it. Conversely, Alan Saint-Maximin probably wouldn't have done it. He just runs up and down a tennis court. That's all he would have done by himself. So that's just the two polar extremes of 90% of the squad but one. You know, so that's just my opinion on that. But yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah, great stuff.
It's great the way Kev's just segued into a full circle there. We started off talking about ESM and we're finished with ESM written up the training plan that the club sent them.
Exactly.
And are mistaking it for hills and tennis courts.
You think Kev knew what he was talking about, wouldn't you?
You would. Fantastic.
I mean, I've worked hard at it, you know what I mean?
Hey, well, that hour's been great, lads. Pre-recorded show, of course, but plenty to talk about, as always. Great to see you. Thanks to Al-Walid, thanks to Stu, thanks to Mitch, thanks to George, technical problems, thanks to Sooty, thanks to Steve Hasty, and thanks to Kevin. Take care, lads. See you again soon.
See you all.
We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.